Welcome back to the Mookie Jilson channel, and you are looking live at another cue card. This is an outline, a rundown of what we're going to talk about in the order in which we're going to discuss it, and this is the East Coast National Week episode here at Mookie Jilson World Headquarters. We are counting down to the East Coast National. Of course, I missed the National in Chicago, to my great regret. You guys look like you had such a freaking blast. I'm totally jealous. But the consolation prize is in White Plains, and hopefully it will be fun. We're going to talk a little bit about the preps for that and some other stuff that includes a strawberry explosion ? I'll show you what that's about. Like I said, we're going to be prepping for the show, the East Coast National, this weekend. And then there is a new pot roast recipe, ! Here at Mookie Jilson World Headquarters. That is what we call a tease. It's not entirely knowable what that means until you get there, and hopefully you'll be as interested and as excited as I am about what that means. But let's begin in Garfield. Garfield happens before the East Coast National, happened last weekend, and every other weekend in New Jersey, the Garfield show, Clint, the fisherman, shows up, and I show up, and he brings some fun and interesting stuff for me to look at, including some of his Mets gear. And this week he brought me this. This is a Darryl Strawberry pin from 1984, and this is a Hot Lights pin. And you can see it's got 3 little red-orange bulbs poking out the front of it. I had never seen anything like this, but it looks totally 80s, very much like the kind of kitschy tchotchke that would be produced by somebody in the 80s to try and sell to Mets fans like me and Clint. And so he gave this to me, and I said, Clint, let me turn this around. I said, what do you think the odds are that it lights up? And he says, nothing, I tried it. And so I, of course, flipped the switch for myself. And of course, when I brought this home, I thought, now I got to see if I can get this thing back to life. And so I had a plan. I brought it to my man Charles over at the watch repair shop in town, who I have had a couple of run-ins with with non-working clocks, and he loved the idea of helping me trying to fix this. And so I said, do you think we can get the face of this thing off without totally destroying it? And he said, yes, this was not meant to be replaced. If they wanted you to replace the batteries, they would have put some kind of hatch in here. They did not want you to replace these batteries. They wanted you to buy another Hot Lights, but I don't know if Hot Lights ever really caught on. Anyway, so about a half hour later, laughing and talking about the Mets and Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, and Charles is a King Crimson fan. Anyway, we popped this thing off. 2 new fresh watch batteries later, and should we do it? Are you ready? And let me hold on for effect. Let there be light. Look at Darryl. Lit up like the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. This is the way it was meant to be, 1984 style. So there was no strawberry explosion like I worried if I flipped this switch and maybe the batteries went cuckoo. So Darryl and the Hot Lights are back in the highlight again. I'm going to click this off, and I'll turn back the light because we need to see. And here we go. And I'm going to turn this off so I don't have to buy new batteries again. Thank you to Clint and Charles. And we're going to the East Coast National. And one of the things I like to do when I go to the East Coast National is bring cards to grade. And one of the cards I'm going to bring to grade is this one. This is my 1967 Mets team issue postcard that I found in the wild. And I never knew about this card until Sammy Thunder pointed it out to me. And eventually I found one in raw condition, and I want to get it graded. There are different variations that don't have the Mets symbol. I think they're totally blank back, but I like this one, frankly, with the Mets and Tom Seaver on the back. Beautiful scoreboard at Shea in 1967. Drink your Rheingold. It's refreshing, not sweet. It's the extra dry treat. And then some more cards I want to get graded. These two are national VIP giveaways from the 2012 era. On the left there, Jackie Robinson in his Montreal Royals uniform in the style of 52 Topps. And on the right side, 59 Topps style Jackie Robinson on the New York Giants. Of course, he was traded to the New York Giants, but elected to retire instead of play for a different team. And Topps made a card out of him for the national, I guess in 2012, I want to say, in the style of 1959 Topps. Just two super cool cards that I think will look pretty nifty in SGC tuxes. Another card that I picked up in Strongsville this year that I haven't gotten tuxedoed yet is my man Gil Hodges in the Dandy. Now this is a dirtied up Dandy. I saw some chips, but look at that grease. But we'll get that slab. In the non-sport arena, this is the N76 1888 W. Duke and Sons. Anybody know who that is? Washington Irving. Of course, he was the author and short story writer who wrote Rip Van Winkle, who is pictured behind him, the old man in the Catskills Mountain. He also wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is where we get the Headless Horseman stories from. He was an epic and prolific writer of his time, and this is a super cool card. And one of the reasons I really love this card and I love Washington Irving is his home is in Tarrytown, New York, which is actually technically called Sleepy Hollow, at least the portion of it I think his home is in. And we used to go tour that on school trips when I was a kid. And so Washington Irving's, look at the tobacco stain on the bottom of that card. Beautiful card that I can't wait to get slabbed up. I also have in the non-sport arena some Batman cards to grade. We have our Sinister Smile. That is a first appearance of the Catwoman, the fiendish villain from the Batman series. So I'll get that graded. I have one of these. This is a playing card, 1966 Batman playing card, one of his very early publications. Again, it's another card. I just love the pose. It's sort of like Nosferatu style arm gesture there. Super cool. And then another first appearance, my man Peter Parker, Spider-Man, tangled up in his web with one of the Fantastic Four in there on the 1966 Donruss cards, card number 34. And on the back, that is the arm of the Daredevil. I've had one of these before in a sort of in much worse condition, so I had a chance to upgrade, and I picked this up, so I'll get it graded and put it in my PC. I also have a couple of beautiful Shohei Ohtani cards. That is a Topps Archive rookie card from 2018 in the style of 1959 Topps, which I just love. And then another, here's a Transogram. This was a heritage issue from 2018. Super cool Ohtani. Not a creative back, but very cool. And speaking of Japanese ball players, I'm going to get this. I showed this, I think, last episode. The Sadahara O. This is a 1974 Broder card. The Mets played the Yomiuri Giants in Tokyo in 1974. And Sadahara O played against them. And Broder put out this card, so I'll get that slabbed up. And so that's the prep for the show. So I hope to see as many of you as I can out there. I know my man Rocket Rick is coming up, or at least I believe he said that he is. And so hopefully we will meet and hang out and have a good time and treat it like it was our version of the National. And finally, about that pot roast. If you are somebody who spends any time at all whatsoever watching content on YouTube related to baseball cards, vintage baseball cards, or cool stuff of any kind, you must be a subscriber to Goodman and West 238th. It is at W 238th Street is the handle, and Dean is the proprietor of this channel, and all he does on this channel is produce awesomeness. He is an absolute sorcerer, from the cards that he curates to the content he creates from it to the effects he effects with it. It's just off the charts, creative, smart, brilliant, entertaining, and I watch every frame of his videos again and again when he puts one out. So please do yourself a favor. And so when he messaged me and said, hey, I know you're not going to the National, I want to send you something, I said, heck yeah. Are you kidding me? And so he sent me this box, and inside the box was a page-a-day calendar to prove to me the date that he sent it to me, August 8th, Friday, August 8th, which is the day that Thurman Munson debuted, catching an Al Downing shutout. Pretty cool. Good job, Thurman. Al Downing, a New Jersey native, by the way. And so Dean also sent me this letter, and I want to read to you and take you through what Dean sent me. So here it is. There's the title, Goodman Inc., to World Headquarters. Dear Mookie, how's your summer been? Mine's been fine. I wanted to send you a couple of items. First, the 64 Choo Choo Veni. He's the first ever Met to retire and open a Chinese restaurant. Now, I don't know if you are aware, but Choo Choo Coleman, there he is. And there's the Choo Choo Veni that Dean sent me. He is Met number 14. He was taken 14th overall in the Mets expansion draft before they started in 1962, and he was a 5'9", 160-pound catcher. That Casey Stengel said was the fastest person he had ever seen chasing a passed ball. That was the kind of guy that Choo Choo Coleman was. And Choo Choo Coleman never really made it big in the big leagues. And as Dean said, I'm going to read you here, he was a proprietor of a Chinese restaurant. After finishing up his baseball career in Mexico City in the American minor leagues, Coleman went home to Orlando, Florida, where he had grown up in more segregated times. His first wife, Odessa, a hairdresser, died. His second wife, Lucille, had a daughter who married into a Chinese family in Newport News, Virginia. And so Choo Choo Coleman, for nearly 2 decades, Choo Choo Coleman, the legendary Met, was helping to run a Chinese restaurant in Virginia, cooking, quote, fried rice pepper steak, he said with pride. And so there he is, Choo Choo Coleman. There he is on an autograph, but Choo Choo Coleman went international. And I'm going to take this card out of here so we can do the correct forensic observation here. And as you can see here on the front, you have some creasing across the face. Of course, these Venezuelans don't have a lot of gloss on them. They're a little bit sort of matte-ier on the finish. And why does Choo Choo have creases going across his face? Well, that's because he was stuck in an album, glued into an album. You see a glob of glue there and some paper loss. And when whoever took this card out of the album did that, they definitely did some creasing. But this is a totally glorious and totally amazing gift from Dean. I'm blown away by it and couldn't be happier to have it in the World Headquarters. But Dean wasn't done. Let me just say, the next card is a 58 Murakami Menko Shigeo Nagashima, R.I.P. to Mr. Pro Baseball, one of my fave guys from Japan. Yes, that's a pinhole from an actual Japanese steel pin. Now, what the heck is Dean talking about here? Let me take this card out of the package. So this is a Menko card from, I don't know if it's late 50s or early 60s, of Shigeo Nagashima in his Yomiuri Giants uniform there over that red background. Beautiful hot pink reddish background, and like Dean said at the top, look at that pinhole. There is no real telltale corona up there, so this may have been a map tack like the ones used here at the World Headquarters. But just to think that the youngster who was collecting these cards, just like the youngsters here in the United States, was pinning this up to their wall in Japan because Shigeo Nagashima was a legend. I mean, if you're going to pin a card up to your wall in Japan, this is the dude. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame there in Japan. He very recently passed away in his 80s. And he also actually, after playing for the Giants, actually went on to manage the Yomiuri Giants. And one of the things, because all roads lead back to the 86 Mets, Nagashima recruited a third baseman over to play in Japan by the name of Davey Johnson. And Davey Johnson became the first American-born player to play for the Yomiuri Giants with Shigeo Nagashima. And so, there you go. Anyway, that's your theme. This is a mind-blowing card. I just couldn't love it more. So thank you for this. But he wasn't done. Dean wasn't done. Finally, an original Dean Goodman Retorado. I was thrilled to see that it got a BN2 grade from the grading company. And those of you who were with Dean in Chicago have probably seen this. I don't know if they all came in this beautiful graded condition, BN2. I bet they all got BN2s. Maybe they didn't. Send my love to the family. How about this card, by the way? Again, the tea soak. Somebody said that Dean was tea soaking these himself. And all of the damage is like beautifully curated here. I just love it. Just a killer card. Send my love to the family. We missed you in Chicago this year. Your friends asked me to send their cards. And Clara said to tell Marie that she updated her famous pot roast recipe, and she sends her love to Mook Jr. and Scruffy. Sincerely, Dean Goodman. Oh, Dean. You crushed it. This is super cool, super creative, exactly the kind of thing I would expect from an awesome dude like you. Thank you for populating Mookie Chilson World Headquarters with this absolute fiery gold. Can I put this up here? And that's it. Hopefully I'll see some of you. Maybe you'll be at the East Coast National Dean. Either way, thank you all for watching and have a great tomorrow. Thank you.